Thank you for joining today's Parent Session 3, Beginning at the Beginning. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. We are proud to be launching our series at this time. The Dyslexia Initiative, a nonprofit organization, hosts our Zoom parent sessions on the science of reading. Ashley Roberts is a co-founder and is with us today. Well, actually, Alicia is here in her place. I am a parent of a dyslexic son. My name is Marvilene Hagopian. I'm also a retired curriculum specialist and a grandmother. I live in Northern California. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. Our panel of educators are here to share their expertise and insights. Having experts who are well-versed in the science of reading can enhance our experience. Panel, thank you for joining us today. You can find panel members' bios on the Dyslexia Initiative's website. Just search for the dyslexiainitiative.org. Panel members, when I say your name, please say hello so we can see who you are. Terry, Michelle.
Hi.
Roxanne will be with us in a minute. Marilyn and Norma Baker. Dr. Norma Baker.
Hello.
There you are.
I'm here. I just had to get to the mute button.
Okay. We also have a special guest. Susan DeBeck, producer of the video we watched last week, is here with us. Susan, please say hello.
Hello to you all from Vancouver.
Vancouver, Canada, everybody. The video, we watched your video last week, and now she's here with us. Thank you so much, Susan, for being here today. Later in today's session, we will watch part 3, Read to Us, of Susan's highly informative film. Do we have a question? One of the biggest highlights of our meetings is learning where our participants live. Please write your general location in the chat box. And Alyssa will acknowledge your locations. All right, so you're seeing that?
I'm not seeing, oh, I have someone from Florida. Donna is from Florida.
Okay. Michelle lives in Sonora. Terry and I live in Sacramento. Marilyn, I don't know where you're from, where you're living now, Marilyn. I know that Dr. Norma J. Baker is in Texas. Well, due to COVID-19, you have added teacher to the list of your many titles. The purpose of our sessions is to share ways you can support or teach beginning literacy skills at home using a systematic, scientifically proven approach. Our goal is to help you help your children. We are continuing our thematic topic, Beginning at the Beginning. If you joined us today expecting to learn how to teach phonics, please know we will get there. What we are doing now, though, is establishing the background you need to know. So when you work with your children on phonics and other literacy skills, you will be more effective. Our purpose today is to introduce you to the third and final cornerstone of beginning reading, understanding the value of reading aloud and helping children develop text awareness. Now I'm going to go back to my slides. The intent of our first several sessions is to help you become familiar with the science of reading and learn the foundational skills and content you can teach your child. Sessions 1 through 3 are introductory in nature. They are an overview of what you will be learning in future meetings. When a child is experiencing problems learning to read, there are gaps in what the child knows and understands. Learning the basics may help you find the gaps. So far, we have introduced the realization that children need to learn letter names and the sounds the letters represent. The reason why knowing letter names is important is the majority of letters provide clues as to what sounds they make. For example, when you say the letter name M, you hear M. Our purpose today is to learn the third and final cornerstone of beginning reading: text awareness, concepts of print. You are encouraged to ask questions or make comments anytime in the chat box. We will address as many as possible in after wrap-up chats. It's time to watch the final segment of what children need in order to read. And in this video, Dr. Marvilene Hagopian, a scholar in educational research, explains success in reading in the first grade is the best predictor of a child's future reading success. In part 3, Dr. Adams explains why children need to develop text awareness. She will tell us children need ample experience with books to learn how print works. She talks about why children need to become familiar with the language of books, emphasizes the value of sharing books with young children, and explains that reading multiple books helps children expand their vocabulary. Let's watch the video. Just transitioning back to the video. Here we go.
Principle.
What children need, read to us. So it's one.
And then the third category of factors we can collect under the label of text awareness. Under this text awareness umbrella, what determines whether a child measures high or low? Most important is surely the amount of time that that child has enjoyed books. Reading books with his parents, with his teachers, with his friends. Lap time experience, read aloud experience is so important. And probably most importantly is a way of letting them see that reading is something that they would like to do. Second, sharing books with your children is perhaps the only way to introduce them to how print works, to the forms, the appearance, the mechanics of print. They learn an awful lot as they sit there with their face in the book as you read. Third, it's also shown that read aloud sessions are among the most powerful forums for language development, parent-child language development. And I think it's worth noting that the language of books really is different from the language of our everyday world. Books offer one of the few opportunities for children to explore things that don't exist in the here and now, except for Uncle Pete, who may send a Christmas present. Almost everything that you discuss with children is about the here and now. Pick up your shoes, put on your coat, eat your dinner, where's the cat? Books, though, not only describe people, places, and events that are not here and now, but they're the child's introduction to creating concepts and understandings through language. I can create a giraffe through my story about Africa. These are important and very heavy insights reading aloud with your children then is of immeasurable, invaluable importance towards sending them on their ways towards literacy. And the question arises, when should one start? Well, in fact, although you may feel ridiculous doing it, a perfectly wonderful time to start is when the child is just a couple months old. As soon as the baby can control his eyes and his head, put the baby on your lap, open the book, and begin to share. When you select books, it's very important to find books whose language and concepts are appealing to your little one. And it's worth noting that when you find a book that is of interest, your child will probably ask to have the book read again and again and again. You may grow very weary of your child's favorite book. But it's important to bear in mind that as long as the child is still asking to have that book read again and again, it means there's still pieces that she or he has not quite worked out, still pieces that are very interesting, still learning that's going on with that book. The first time, the second time, the seventh time, and every time you read through the book, the most important thing is that you stop at every indication, every invitation from the child and discuss what's interesting, how it relates to the rest of the child's world, to other things that he knows, that you discuss what the characters are doing, why, how they're feeling. It's in this way that text builds understanding. And I think that as adults, we know, if we don't explicitly appreciate, that learning through text is not what the text says, but it's the thoughts that it creates in us. Same thing is true with children, but it's much, much more important with children because they know so many bits and pieces. The challenge of putting the pieces together, the challenges of learning how to think beyond the here and now, beyond the concrete, to build these relations are among the very most important intellectual challenges.
Is this emerald?
It is emerald. It is.
This is emerald, I think.
You like that color?
Do you know what city that was in a lot of us in?
Emerald City.
Some children seem to learn to read as though by magic. Other children have great difficulty. One of the responses to the situation that I find most tragic of all is the response, well, just let them be. They'll do it when they're ready. I repeat, everything we've been able to learn about beginning reading says that it depends exactly and only on whether the child has had the experience and the thoughts to understand and move into it. We know well that even the child who's working like crazy to manage that soccer ball may well excel in the long run, provided that he neither gives up nor becomes discouraged. We should try to find the same attitude towards reading. For some children, it will come like magic. For some children, it will take a lot of work, but provided that they neither become discouraged or unhappy or give up, that has no bearing on how they may well excel once they get those basics down. I think it's terribly important to appreciate that literacy, that learning to read and becoming literate is extremely complex. You can look at literacy and reading as an issue of intellectual development and thought and curiosity and personal exploration and enlightenment and start there as your focus. Or you can look at the primary challenge in reading instruction as one of unlocking literacy. Is working from the bottom up. The children have to understand the code. They have to have the key. They have to know the letters, be able to decode the letters into words. We need to put lots of energy into both ends with very careful thought about how they will meet in the middle so that they can foster each other. You want to give children the skills, the knowledge, the support. And while you give them those skills, build them through the love of literature, the exploration of literature, the pleasure of both information and imagination that comes from literature.
I start with my little eye, something that starts with C.
Something that starts with C.
My sister has a
He had George a bag and told him to do one side of the street first, then turn back and do the other side.
Okay, go back to our slides. This video underscored the value of books in reading aloud to your child. For example, Dr. Adams made a point of explaining the significant role books play in broadening a child's vocabulary. She emphasized that bonds parents can foster when reading aloud. Well, books encourage a child's imagination, helps them delve into the abstract and venture beyond the here and now. The first time I watched Susan DeBeck's video, I was struck by the fact Dr. Adams explained it's never too early to set your babies on your lap and read to them. I wish I had known that when my babies were born. Another thing I appreciated hearing was that when children keep asking you to read the same book over and over, it simply means there are parts of the book the child is still learning. You can get your own copy of What Children Need by visiting Susan's website. So let's review what we've learned about reading aloud. When we read to children, we can broaden their vocabulary, help them learn about their world. Books help children venture into the abstract and the world of fantasy. When you read to them, children gain important insights into how print works, also called concepts of print. Text awareness is another important but incomplete step towards successful reading acquisition. Please understand our first several meetings are simply an introduction to the skills and content you will be learning in future lessons. We will revisit letter knowledge, awareness of language and sounds, and concepts of print because there is much more to learn, such as phonics and spelling, fluency and reading comprehension. Sessions 1 through 3 are just an overview. Here's some examples of books from my library that I used to teach vocabulary when my children were little. The baby book talks about emotions and helps little ones attach words to the way they feel. Inside, outside, upside down is an example of words that are abstract in nature. One family favorite is Grover's Everything in the Whole Wide World Museum, a great book for developing vocabulary. The purpose of this slide is to remind you to read a variety of books. Nonfiction expands a child's world. This series of books is wonderful because they use famous people to teach values such as kindness, courage, and persistence. Children enjoy nonfiction. Consider reading biographies, history, science, and nature books. Your local bookstore or library has plenty of nonfiction choices for children of all ages. Alphabet and alliterative books, such as Pamela Duncan Edwards' stories, help children learn the beginning sounds of words. The descriptive words she uses are many and varied. Plus, her use of higher level vocabulary in these books is impressive. Dr. Seuss and nursery rhymes are not only fun, they help children pay attention to words that end in the same sounds. Children's classics such as Peter Rabbit, The Three Bears, and Three Billy Goats Gruff are books some teachers may think your child already knows. So consider adding classics to your read aloud library as well. Now, please know there is no age limit as to when you should stop reading to your children. As they get older, consider choosing more sophisticated choices. Classic novels such as Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, and The Grapes of Wrath. Poetry, such as those by Shel Silverstein and Maya Angelou, are good choices. Now, each week, we recommend you check out web links designed to deepen your understanding of the topics we are covering. In addition to checking out the links, we are also encouraging you to try to extend the number of times you read to your children. When looking for books to add to your child's library, try to vary the topics or subjects. And here's a list of things you might think about when you choose books to read aloud. Choose books that open the door for discussions, expand your child's world, broadens your child's vocabulary, encourages your child's imagination, and books that venture into the abstract. Next week, we will revisit letter knowledge. We will show you how to teach letter naming and, at the same time, help children identify consonants and vowels. November 3rd is Election Day in the United States, so we will skip this week. November 11th, we'll be doing our final session for the year. We are taking a break for the holiday season. We will start our first 2021 session talking about concepts of print and the importance of allowing your child think time. In today's after wrap-up chat, Susan DeBeck, producer of What Children Need, is joining us. She's here to address questions you may have regarding the video. We use after wrap-up chats to respond to your questions, learn more about the topics we are studying, and get to know each other. You can also share activities you can do at home to support reading acquisition. Parents of older children may be eager to move ahead. We'll try to do our best to meet your needs. Last week, we spent the entire chat answering participants' questions. Panel members and I enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you and respond to your questions. Perhaps during today's chat, you could tell us some of your child's favorite books that also support learning the three cornerstones of beginning reading. Thank you for attending the session number 3. Remember, meetings are being recorded so you can revisit today's meeting anytime. Should you like what you are learning, please consider inviting family and friends to join us. More the merrier. Together, we can help our children get a heads up, supplement what they are learning in school, and possibly alleviate reading difficulties they may be experiencing. We can help you prepare your child for the hard work of learning to read and write. Should you have more time, stick around. Join our after wrap-up chat. Susan will respond to her questions. Any questions you may have, panel members will be there too. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you stick around. And now we'll move on to our after wrap-up chat. But before starting the chat, let's review last week's assignment. We recommended 2 things you could do. As always, we listed several links designed to deepen your understanding of the topics we are covering. You were encouraged to play the syllable counting game with your child. Syllable counting fits under Cornerstone 2, awareness of the sound structure of our language. Think sounds. Clapping syllables is the child's first step into learning how to break words into parts. We want you to appreciate the role breaking words into parts plays into the scheme of things. We would like you to understand why syllable counting is important. Because the inability of an individual to break words into parts is one reason some children have difficulty learning to read. Clapping friends and family members' names might be a fun game for you to play with your child. In our web links, you will find the months of the year syllable counting song. It's a twofer. Children sing the months of the year and clap syllables at the same time. You could make up your own songs for the days of the week or any other category, such as animal names. Syllable clapping is a necessary but insufficient skill, so please do not skip this step. Last week during our chat, we spent quite a bit of time talking about spelling. Here are 2 books I promised we would show you. You might want to add these 2 books to your home library. These are my copies. The Speech to Print workbook looks different from mine because it has been revised. Links can be found on the Dyslexia Initiative webpage. But you might be able to find cheaper versions somewhere else. So let's start our chat. Now we get to spend time getting to know Susan DeBeck and learning more about what children need in order to read. Susan, thank you for joining us. So I'm wondering, does anyone have any questions for Susan? You can, in this session, you can just unmute if you choose and ask your question. Now, at the same time, we have our panel members who are here and prepared to answer or respond to any questions you may have regarding issues that you're having with your children at home with learning to read. Our panel members are former teachers, administrators. They're all experts in reading. So I'm wondering, any questions?
Well, I was just going to say that in terms of the what children need in order to read video, I mean, Marilyn really says it all. I was just sort of the vehicle for her to express the knowledge that she had as a result of the research and the report that she made. You know, she really is the one that so clearly outlines what it is that that young children need to read. So my background is a kindergarten teacher, and so she used to always joke about the kindergarten teacher from Vancouver who came and did the video. And of course, I just thought it was so important that people know, the findings that she had from the research that she had done. And so that was why that's why I did the video, just in case any of you were wondering.
Well, as I've said many times, Susan, I watched that video easily 10 different times. It's so wonderful. I was just beginning my education on beginning reading at the time, and I was in the throes of dealing with my son who was dyslexic and having to deal with school and trying to find him tutors, and ended up putting him in a private school. But I would say that all of us here, all of our panel members, really also very much appreciate what you did for parents, that video is truly
Thank you.
special.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Dr. Norma Baker, Norma, tell us about yourself. Are you there?
Mute.
Okay, Marilyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, like Susan, I was a kindergarten teacher, actually for 18 years. And I was a principal, a curriculum coordinator in a big school district, and an assistant superintendent at the Sacramento County Office of Education. And our work at the county office focused heavily on struggling readers. What can we do to help kids who didn't get this foundation? But at this point in time, I believe that if the foundation is there, then we're being proactive. So if people really focus on these three elements that are in Marvilene Adams' video, we're taking a step in the right direction. And it's, I think with many youngsters, they missed part of this foundation and therefore could not go on to build the additional skills that good readers have.
Michelle, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Michelle Holman, and I'm from Sonora, California, in the lovely foothills. I am a retired teacher, first and second grade, and then for about 3 years, I was a reading coach, helping teachers learn to teach reading and using a scientifically approved reading program. Following that, and that was really difficult to leave the classroom. My love was teaching children, but then I found to be able to teach and help coach teachers, that was also incredibly rewarding. To model lessons and to encourage and to work as a team and reach those students that were struggling so hard to learn this systematic approach. And out of college, I was teaching a phonetic approach, and then the pendulum swing, as it does, it will swing. And we went into the whole language for many years. And I saw the disaster that was happening with young children in their struggle with learning to read. So when we went back to phonics, and not just phonics, but phoneme awareness and all of the cornerstones that Marvi was mentioning, and the research-based approach and how systematic learning to read is, I loved it. And so, as I said, the pendulum does swing in education, and that just has given me desire to want to help parents with their students, their children. I went on and was a curriculum specialist and helped doing advising with different districts in California. And I'm retired, and Marvi contacted me and asked me to do a little help with being on the panel for this great cause. And I have such a passion for teaching children to read.
Hey, Terry, could we hear a little bit from you?
Sure. I started out as a, what they call the Miller-Unruh reading teacher. I'd gotten my reading credential. And I was a Miller-Unruh reading teacher. But prior to that, I had been introduced to a very systematic approach to reading instruction when I was in Southern California, and I was teaching for peanuts at a parochial school, and they were using open court. And I just thought, my goodness, I never learned any of what they were teaching when I was a kid, and so I just hung on to what I had learned about the code, the phonetic code, and decided to go in that direction in my education. So that's why I went and got a reading credential, a certificate, and was a Miller-Unruh reading teacher, and then a classroom teacher in the primary grades. And one of the things that stuck out about Marvilene Adams' video was how tragic it is for students who, or for parents who hear, just let them be. They'll learn to read when they're ready. And I was so upset as a teacher to attend an IEP meeting. Is that what it is?
IEP.
IEP.
IEP. I'm getting confused with my husband's terminology when he does, you know, it's all acronyms. And I would get so upset when I would hear the psychologist and the reading specialist at the school say, well, you know, they're not that far behind yet. And, you know, as a classroom teacher, you could see how they were struggling so hard. And this was in the middle of the whole language. I'd already done, you know, the swing. There was the whole language, and I just brought out I send off for my the open court phonics program. Somehow or another, I got that into my classroom, and the principal had no idea what I was doing, but he saw the kids were succeeding, but he'd get after all the other teachers if they were teaching phonics, but he didn't know what it was. And so, but my kids were excelling. And then I became a reading coach and got another master's in reading instruction. And so reading has been my passion for my entire 40 plus years. And I'm tutoring now because I retired, and I just missed it. So I started tutoring, and reading instruction has never been far from my heart. I think probably because my daughter had some difficulty, one of my daughters had difficulty with reading. And I remember as a kid struggling in first and second grade with reading, but we didn't learn about the sounds. It was all sight, Dick and Jane and all of their adventures. It was like, I just didn't get it. So when I saw how phonics worked, I was just so excited. And that's what I hung on to. And that's what I really, truly believe in. And if you're a parent and somebody tells you that your child will get it when they're ready, run the other way. Find somebody who will listen to you and take and help you with what you need in order for your child to succeed. There's no reason why every child couldn't succeed.
Okay, is Dr. Baker, are you back?
I was there, I'm on this iPad here. So it's been giving me challenges all day today, but I'm good. I'm here.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Anyway, I'm again Dr. Norma Baker, and I'm retired. I'm a retired teacher, principal, reading coordinator, reading coach, college professor. So and administrative coach for various districts. And I've worked with a couple of textbook companies. I became involved in this reading, early on as a principal reading coach, vice principal reading coach. And that's where I met these wonderful ladies, Marvilene and Marilyn. And then later on, as I became a member of the curriculum commission, I was so impressed, like Terry, when I met them. And at that time we were using open court. And I tell you, like most of us, I learned to read using whole language. And see, while you were talking, I was trying to think in my head, did I learn anything about reading in school? Because when I went to school, I was a reader. My mother taught me to read when I was 4 years old. And again, it was sight word reading. So when I entered first grade, I never went to kindergarten. So when I went to first grade, I was a reader. And I've just always read. But then when I was introduced to open court and I saw the scientific research approach that they use, I was hooked. And I think that is the best way to teach children how to read. And I would tell individuals, not only did I appreciate the open court research process, the phonics and etc., but I also taught myself how to teach reading. And I want to have that experience so I can share it with my teachers so that they would know it's not as challenging or as difficult as one might think. And so as a result, I took all the open court trainings and all of that, and later went back and shared it with my teachers. But I think the most important thing, in addition to my teachers being able to teach and do extremely well with the students in reading, was the fact that I learned how to teach reading. So that was a great discovery for myself. And the latest experience I had was I had a great niece to come and visit for a week from California, unfortunately. And I was talking, she's a very bright student. Her vocabulary is very extensive. So I wanted to hear her read. And I could tell, she knew how to blend, so she had the basics, but the one thing that she didn't have, and I think this was a family issue, that when I asked her to read aloud, she would read very softly and was very unsure. There was no self-confidence there. And I asked her, she said, and then, initially she said, I said, well, let's read the story. She said, well, I don't know how to read. Now, this is a first grader, and we all know that when they're in the first grade, they should be reading something. And so I said, yes, you do know how to read. And so I had her read something for me. And she read and she sounded out the words and then did the blending, that whole thing. But I asked, and I asked her, did somebody tell you you can't read? And she said, yes, my sister. So her confidence had been destroyed. So the entire week that she spent with me, I kept instilling her, trying to instill the self-confidence that she needed, because she had all the skill sets needed. Mm-hmm. But she was just so unsure of applying those skill sets. And then when I looked at this virtual learning, this virtual teaching, and I'm not casting shade on anyone, but I'm not impressed. So I'm not impressed. There's so much lacking. So anyway, and what I'm doing is I referred her to this link, and I want her to start watching this, her mother rather, to the link, so that her mother can do a better job than what I see is being done.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you, all panel members. I would really like to hear from our participants who are here today. So do we have a brave soul? Unmute and share with us why you're here today. How about Roxanne? Might you be willing to unmute and kind of share with us what you'd like to learn? Were you shy? Anyone? Okay, Alicia.
Yeah, I would love to share. So before we go on, you had pictures of the
speech to print.
So this is the new, what it looks like, the new edition. If anyone's looking for it, ordered it on Amazon. but I'm a parent. I have a dyslexic child. And so when we found out that she had dyslexia, and I started to realize how much of my time the advocacy piece was going to take to get her what was needed, and for me to sort of wrap my head around what exactly that would look like, I ended up leaving my job as a preschool assistant director, which I loved, knowing that we needed to figure out how we we're going to help my daughter. And so I, since then, have kind of fallen down this rabbit hole of figuring out how to be an interventionist. And so we live in Texas, and I went and I lived with my sister, who it has been an amazing blessing that she used to work at the Skank School in Atlanta. So one of the best dyslexia schools in the country. I was fortunate that my sister taught there. And so we spent the summer there, and I was trained by some AOGPE fellows. And then I came back here to Texas, and I realized I felt like I just needed to know more. And I'm just so thankful to y'all, because you guys know what parents need to be hearing and what I should have been hearing as a preschool teacher long ago. And so I've just become really passionate about helping parents get their kids what they need, either if it's dyslexia intervention or if it's early literacy, and advocating for just getting our kids what they need that way. It's been quite the journey, but I'm so thankful to you all, because you are like the pioneers who I feel like need to take all of us parents under your wing and just guide us. So I'm thankful for you all for sharing your knowledge and your expertise and helping parents, because sometimes this is a scary place to be when you just don't know what you're going to do to get your kid help. So.
Well, it is scary. I remember advocating for my son when he was in kindergarten, and I was told, he's fine, just wait, everything will be good. And then in first grade, and things were not looking well. And the long story short is, my story is that when my son was 13, he still couldn't read at a first grade level. And I know that now because of what I've learned. But in my IEP meeting, I was told that, and this is when he was 13, I was told that the expectations the teachers had for my son were that he was going to be a juvenile delinquent and a high school dropout. So yeah, I ran out of the room in tears, and that's when I got busy. Alyssa, you're much further along than I was.
No, I mean, that's just what it takes. We'll do anything to teach our kids how to read, and you just jump all in.
We jumped all in. That's what I did. So I put him in a private school, and a year later, he wasn't reading at first grade level or writing. He couldn't write, really. He couldn't spell or write at all. His reading comprehension was at the 9th grade level. Wow. And my son was writing full page essays. And that was just 1 year later.
Wow.
It was remarkable. And that's kind of when I knew that something was rotten in Denmark. And so I made a promise to myself. I was so grateful, but it cost me $7,000 to put him through school. And that was what, 35 years ago? So it's incredibly expensive for parents. And, I really was feeling for all of those parents and children who do not have the funds to get their child, the help that they need. So that's when I decided to pay back and started learning the science and meeting people, and here we are, still advocating, because all of us, all of the panel members here, ladies, are very passionate, and we really want to do what we can to help you help your children. That's what it's all about. Our meetings are only going to be about the sessions. We're going to try to keep them to 30 minutes because we know everyone's busy. So that if when parents join in, they can tune out after just a quick 30 minutes, or should they want to stay and have questions, we stick around to answer your specific questions about your children or about the research. So we're just here to help you, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We will be back next week. We're going to, as I said before, we're going to show you how to teach letter naming. Earlier I made an assignment, asked you to make letter cards for your children with an uppercase letter on one side, a lowercase letter on the other side, consonants, write your consonants in black, write your vowels in red, and I'll show you how to teach letter naming and consonants and vowels at the very same time. And just know you can start with children as young as 3 years old with these cards, teaching them letter names, upper and lowercase. So that's what we'll do next week. Then we have a break because we have our, as everybody knows, we have our elections. And then the following week after that, we'll get into letter formation, printing. And then we'll take a holiday break and come back in January. Okay? Okay. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Alicia.
Thank you. It was so wonderful to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting. Bye.
Oh, and Susan,
Bye.
thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Susan.
We love your film. We love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
It is amazing. It's so
Yeah.
just so good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the
Thank you,
reception's
Alicia.
recording. Okay, we'll see
Thank
you
you,
next.
Marvin.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.